Welcome to the Systems Alliance. My name is Jexy, and in this video we're going to go over the news that EA stock just dropped the most out of any stock this past Friday. But why? Well, turns out that Apex Legends is losing its steam and losing its steam fast, especially when you compare it to obviously Fortnite and even PUBG. So as you can see from this chart, Friday was pretty rough for EA compared to the rest of the week where it held pretty much even and it dropped over 7%. Now, the reason is because Apex Legends, which was not just supposed to be a big game for EA, their way into the Battle Royale genre, it was supposed to be the Fortnite killer. And early on, Season 1, it looked like it might be the Fortnite killer. I mean, it was getting big time numbers and really fast. The growth was way faster than Fortnite had during the same period of its launch. Now, the difference is, of course, Fortnite is a lot bigger now, and they are the 800-pound gorilla in the room for Battle Royale games. PUBG has definitely taken a back seat. They're nowhere near where they used to be, and they're nowhere near the heights of Fortnite currently. Now, one of the reasons that we know Apex Legends is taking a hit is not just because EA is pretty much saying so, but also they haven't released official numbers for total users, like active users. This is something that we always get from Fortnite. And when they don't release that number, it's because it's bad. Video game developers, video game companies, publishers, all they want to do is brag. So when Apex Legends was doing great, they bragged. Even Microsoft, when they were beating Sony, with the 360 versus the PS3, they bragged. And now they don't release numbers anymore because everyone knows that the PS4 is destroying the Xbox One in terms of sales, at least. It's around double, but still very solid numbers from Xbox One. Just like you would think, okay, Apex Legends numbers, they're probably pretty solid too, but compared to the competitors, it's not worth releasing because it's only going to bring in bad news and bad publicity, because once the gamer community gets a hold of that, it's just going to be an all-out war. Like, hey, this one's better than that one. You can see here. PUBG, they release numbers. They already know that they've lost the war. They're just still trying to stay relevant and trying to do so in not necessarily the best of ways, trying to take money from consumers without really giving them much. So I personally think that the optimism, the expectations for Apex Legends were simply too high. When you come out of the gate just like that, it's like Avengers Endgame. Wow, biggest opening ever. This is crazy. It's going to beat $4 billion. That's what it's on pace for if it has just even a regular hold. Well, of course it didn't, because it was just too high. And then it was like, well, maybe it's going to hit $3 billion. Well, that's not going to happen. Well, it's going to be Avatar. And then that wasn't going to happen until they just re-released it into theaters, pushed it into additional theaters because it was still out. Similar to Apex Legends. Whoa, it started way too high, except the difference is Fortnite is still way up here. So Apex Legends, it was just trying to beat Fortnite's start. That doesn't seem to be happening anymore. Some gamers are talking about Season 2. There's a couple of flaws, like key flaws, like game-breaking flaws. Obviously, EA is working to address them. But when you just look at, say, Twitch viewership, Season 2 of Apex Legends is actually not even half as much as Season 1. And Season 1 was more comparable to, say, when PUBG is doing well. And compared to Fortnite, it's just a small fraction. So you would think, oh, Season 2, that's where it needs to start growing in order for it to keep on the Fortnite trajectory. That's obviously not happening. One of the main reasons I think this is because Fortnite is so good. They have new stuff like every week. New stuff every week. Drastically new stuff every month. Avengers Endgame comes out and they have Thanos in the game. John Wick comes out and they have John Wick stuff. They are always on top of it. It's always fresh. It's always new. So even if the gameplay or anything else gets boring, they still have stuff to drag you back in. So people are still interested in Fortnite. Now, granted, Fortnite also kind of goes towards a younger demographic. And so they have that advantage. They have a bigger market because people who play Fortnite, the age range is everybody's age range, from as young as you can play to as old. Whereas Apex Legends was more to that hardcore market. However, it looks like they didn't quite succeed in capturing it away from Fortnite even. Now, some people could make the argument that maybe the hardcore market just doesn't really like battle royale games, and it was a miscalculation by EA to go after the hardcore market of something where the hardcore players aren't really there. That being said, there's still a ton of people playing it, but if Season 2 is half of what Season 1 is, what are we going to do here? Because Apex Legends, they had a lot of cool stuff. They had something in it where Fortnite was able to copy it in just a month. In a month time, Fortnite took one of the best things Apex Legends has, put it in their own game, and now it's like, well, so Apex Legends, what do you have that's new? Because while Fortnite is putting new stuff out every month and sometimes every week, Apex Legends has been much slower. There hasn't been a lot of new stuff. I mean, Season 2 has new stuff, but it took a whole season to get new stuff. That's not going to be fast enough, especially when a major demographic are kids, like younger kids. If they're getting so much stuff from Fortnite, they're not going to wait around for an Apex Legends to take an entire season to give you a bunch of new updates. That's not fast enough for them. That's not exciting enough. That's not something that they're going to do. And it's kind of showing that here. I mean, it was hot for a little bit, and then it's faded. And I'm not saying that it's kind of a flash in the pan because it is still going on, but I mean, when you look at the number of people who were playing it when it first came out compared to now, it's a very small fraction. Whereas Fortnite just keeps trucking along and grabbing in all the players, day after day after day. Even though maybe less people are playing, there is a small, slow decline for Fortnite. It's barely anything, and it's still multiple times more than anything else, whether it's Apex Legends or PUBG. And of course, that also being said, I mean, if the servers are crashing and they're having trouble there, that's a problem. Fortnite doesn't seem to be having those problems. They're saying Twitch users are having trouble redeeming some of the characters. There's some flaws in the game, and it's nowhere near like PUBG, which has a million flaws in every single frame. It's not nearly like that, but still, when you're trying to take on Fortnite, you almost have to be perfect. And if you're not quite perfect, it's going to be a little tough. So whether you want to view EA as going down 9% in the day or, a little over 7% during the week, it's definitely a drop. Now, there was a lot of emphasis put on Apex Legends because Anthem basically bombed. It failed. It's one of the biggest video game bombs of all time. And, EA's been trying to make excuses for all of that. Doesn't matter. Obviously, investors aren't buying it. And once again, when you're not releasing number of players, that's a bad thing. Even, for example, like World of Warcraft. I remember, when it used to be, 12, 15 million players, but they don't release numbers anymore. They haven't for years because it's just not as impressive anymore. And Activision Blizzard doesn't want to put that out there because who knows? Maybe they're still the biggest. They probably are. But I mean, if you're only maybe half of what you were, and what are people going to think? Would they abandon it even faster knowing that they're not playing, the biggest game in the world anymore? Either way, I think Apex Legends, EA, they're really going to have to get their stuff together, but they have to do it fast. And the problem with that is they haven't shown the ability when something's going wrong with a game to put in the resources to have it recover. Now, granted, Anthem, the game is broken. Apex Legends is not broken like Anthem, but they need to do something. And do they have the manpower, the skills to put something together fast? Does Respawn have enough people to go ahead and do that? I'm not really sure. EA hasn't really shown that they've been able to do it. If they're going to do on any game, it's definitely Apex Legends, but they've also been known to just cut ties and just go on like a Mass Effect Andromeda or an Anthem. Granted they're both BioWare, but I mean, they did the same thing with Star Wars Battlefront. Like, ooh, that didn't go well. It sold half as much as we wanted to because we were screwing over consumers. We're just going to abandon that too. So will Apex Legends be another game that EA abandons? Maybe, but I think that once again, just like even the other ones like Andromeda, they shouldn't. They shouldn't do that because it once again just ruins consumer confidence for the company. I mean, granted, gamers kind of hate EA anyway, but if you buy a game from a company or you're playing a game and at least putting money into it, spending money, on microtransactions because you like the game so much and you want to give the creator something, you want that to be good. You want everybody to like it. You want to make it feel like you're making a good decision. That's why you want to feel good when you buy a new car, but you want that car to be really good. And you want others to perceive it as that. And you also want it to actually be that. And it's difficult if you know you're buying a car that stinks, is going to break down and all that. Same thing with the game. You want to be making the right decision. You want to be spending not just your money, but your time in the right place. So can Apex Legends be that right place for your time and money? Will EA adjust and start putting out new content? Because sure, not a great launch for Season 2, but I mean, you got to get the content up there. You got to get going. Will they do that? Now, as far as EA goes, in terms of just their stock price, something that, you'd either want to invest in or at least see how it's going, they don't have a lot of games coming up. I mean, Apex Legends was supposed to be huge, and now it's faltering. Season 2 is half of what Season 1 was. And then you have Anthem, was supposed to be the big EA game for the year, and that's a complete bomb, so they're not getting any money off of that. Then you have the Star Wars game that's coming up, and they've said, probably because of pressure from Disney, because how bad Battlefront 2 went, there's not going to be any loot boxes in it. So if you don't have any of that, very hard to take advantage of the consumer, which is a good thing, but on the flip side, they're not going to be making as much money off of it. And as more and more countries and states and everything come with a loot box regulation, what does that spell for the future of EA? Because what I said was earlier, Apex Legends really needs to be that game for EA to bridge the gap between loot boxes that they currently have, the outlawing of said loot boxes, and the continuation of making a lot of money. And the only way to do that is to have free-to-play games without loot boxes, but with microtransactions that are worth it for the consumer to spend money on. That's got to be their bridge. Apex Legends is the first shot on that bridge. Are they going to come out with another Battle Royale type of game? Is that something that they want to do? Will that cannibalize Apex Legends, or should they just put all their chips into Apex Legends and try and make that work? These are the questions that we all have. I personally don't know what they're going to do. Sometimes they surprise you, sometimes they don't, and the times that they don't is usually something negative, usually affects consumer confidence, usually makes gamers hate EA, and consequently affects their stock price in the negative way as well, usually falls. This example right here, gamers aren't too happy with the game, they're not playing it, Twitch views are down, and their stock is down. So there is a direct connection. Can they correct it? Of course they can. But the question is, will they? So with all that being said, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What do you think about where Apex Legends is going to be in the future? What do you think about EA's stock price? What do you think about the future of EA? Will the loot box regulatory climate worldwide change for the negative for them, as it seems like it's going to, and as it probably should, to basically, prevent gambling and children from getting into that? Will that happen? And if so, can EA survive? And is Apex Legends, their free-to-play games, with Battle Royale, is that their only way out? Or do you see another way out for them? I mean, of course, they could just make great games that sell a lot, but they haven't really showed that they could do that at all. I mean, they're pretty hung up on the loot boxes, and they're just trying some other new stuff, but as far as great AAA games that have come out recently from them, not a ton. There's been some, of course, but just not a ton. So will they abandon it like they've done everything else, or will they put the resources into it? And even if they do you think it's going to end up getting to a better fraction of where Fortnite is? Can they even reach Season 1 levels? Do you think they can get back on track to taking on Fortnite? Or do you think it doesn't matter what they do, it'll be a lost cause? Let me know down in the comment section below. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, hit me up on Twitter, and we'll catch you later.